Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the College Football Bully the Board meeting. As always, it's your boys, Kevin, Seth, and Steve. We got a lot to break down for you, as always. A lot of efficiency landscape stuff, various matchups, model predictions, all of it. You're gonna want to stick around and hear it all. Let's get to it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
10 weeks gone, baby, in the season. Week 11 is upon us. It's crazy. Really, yeah, it's been a fun season so far for multiple reasons, but we are here nonetheless, chugging and plugging along, baby. Again, it's Kevin, Seth, and Steve with you. We are Bully the Board. Please, if you guys could give this video a like and please hit subscribe to the channel. We're pretty committed to doing this every single week for you guys. We have obviously this show as well as our NFL version of it as well. Putting out this content all season long for you guys. So if you could hit that like or subscribe button, it really helps this channel grow and really helps us try to accomplish part of our broader goal and broader mission to bring you guys value. So that out the way, 10 weeks in, guys. The matchup map is flying. Yeah, the season's flying by. But this past weekend was fascinating. I mean, there was a couple of marquee, what do you call them, rivalries that are now officially in the books. Officially in the books, gone forever. So what did you guys take away from this past weekend, Seth?
I took away that Michigan got backdoored. No one was talking about that, which was really frustrating to me because we were on that. Georgia beat Mizzou, but I'm not convinced that's actually that meaningful. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And I think Oklahoma pissed away their chances at the playoff. Those are my big takeaways.
Okay. Yeah. Steve, what about you? I know. I mean, did you get to watch much ball this weekend? Because I know you were busy doing some. You were doing some God knows what down in Mexico.
Yeah, yeah. I was officiating my buddy's wedding down in Mexico. So I was at least 7-8 palomas and margaritas deep at all time. So no, I didn't get to watch much football whatsoever. But I was checking the scores here and there. Yeah, right. For me, some of the takeaways from Seth. I'm really excited to see, what Michigan does this week. All the haters, they never play anybody, which, I think you can say the same thing about Georgia, which is why I'm not convinced the Mizzou win is really all that great for them. And then, the Pac-12. Let's talk about the Pac-12. Well, we got 5 teams in the top 25, and Arizona Wildcats bear down 3 ranked teams in a row on homecoming, nonetheless, over UCLA. Shout out Arizona. Shout out Pac-12. We're going to miss the hell out of you.
Yeah, and that also, to piggyback off that, shout out to the futures model and shout out to the University of Arizona. Why? Futures model had over 5 wins. What did they do last weekend? They went ahead on homecoming weekend and cashed that ticket, 6 wins. We had 4 picks for our futures from our futures model. Those all resulted in week 10, which is pretty interesting. We had Arizona over 5 wins. We had Kansas over 6.5 wins. That cashed. We had TCU under 7.5 wins. And then the one that basically we kind of knew was probably DOA was under 8.5 for Liberty. That also cashed, but it lost in week 10 because they won their 9th game. And rule number 1 here, before I talk my shit, that's I always have a rule, and you'll hear me talk about it. I always try not to bet in the markets I know nothing about. That broke my Cardinal rule. I know nothing about that conference. I know nothing about Liberty. Never seen a Liberty game in my life. But anyways, that's the one we lost. So we ended up going 3-1. These were all plus money bets. We ended up winning about – it was a 90% ROI on those future bets. So and then the other futures bets we have, in the chamber are Washington to win the Pac-12, Oregon to win the Pac-12, and Kansas to win the Big 12. But the Kansas to win the Big 12 one is plus 5,000. The Washington to win Pac-12 is plus 400, and Oregon to win the Pac-12 is plus 300. So assuming we get a Washington, Oregon, and Pac-12 championship, we're going to be cashing those tickets, or we're going to be making money off that. So futures model really showed up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, to piggyback on 2 earlier points. So number 1 on the Pac-12, I'm almost hesitant to put this out into the universe, but yes, knock on wood, the only team UCLA, lost to Arizona, of course, but still, top to bottom, this conference is effectively avoiding what has plagued it over these past several years, and it's the self cannibalization, right? The teams that are quote unquote favorite to win, or the higher ranked team, whatever, have largely taken care of business and have avoided, eliminating themselves, from contention or from Pac-12 championship play, etc. So that's been just as a kind of a Pac-12 homer, if you will. That's been good and fun to see. And then across the way a little bit here, you mentioned it right before we hopped on, Seth, but let's talk about it real quick. SEC, Alabama, more specifically, roll tide, baby. Okay, are we? You have to be talking about them national championship hopes.
National championship. Alabama's going to go to the national championship game. Roll tide. I was delusional. Like I was like talking shit to Steve when he said this is Bama's year, that they're going to slump, take a step back. They did. I was like, damn, Steve is right. And then instead of just Steve being on the side of the road, we're both on the side of the road here, because Nick Saban is turning that team around, and Milroe looked really good offensively. And we said 28 was the key number for LSU, and they ended up scoring 28 points. But where I was wrong, and I'm willing to admit, is they won a shootout. It didn't, the LSU quarterback ended up getting hurt, so I think that affected, the true shootout there. But they, in my opinion, won in a shootout, and that was something that I was not expecting Alabama to be able to do.
Right. Now, do they, Steve, what do you think? Do they have to beat Georgia, though, in the SEC championship to get in? Because a two-loss Alabama team, no way has the better resume than some of the other ones, right?
Yeah, I mean that Alabama brand name goes far, it goes deep, it goes wide. But yeah, I think realistically, you got to win the SEC to to at least have the CFP committee save face and make it not seem like a farce, not just because it's Alabama's brand name, but to Seth's point, I think that's a legitimate possibility. I mean, I don't think this is like, oh, they have to do this miracle. Like, they may just very well be able to do this. And to Seth's point too, Milroe had 4 rushing touchdowns. He only threw the ball for like 217 yards for a 42-point game. You know what I mean? And so this Alabama team, we were talking earlier in the year, like they don't have a quarterback. They can't throw the ball downfield. Does it matter? They have a quarterback and a scheme that works for them, and that's running the ball. And Alabama looked absolutely fierce. And we were right. I'm sorry, Seth was right. I was wrong in the sense of I thought Alabama was done. I thought the Bama days were over. No tie, low tie, whatever you want to call it. But they just keep proving me wrong. And I said this a couple weeks ago. Every time I bet against Bama, I'm wrong. And I've learned my lesson. I'm done. Going against Bama, saying that they can't do something. Now, we have a model prediction. That's one thing. But not that they can't do something. They can win games.
Yeah, this begs the question, Georgia. Who is Georgia? What is Georgia capable of doing? Can we talk about this Mizzou win? We had them cover that spread. They didn't cover the spread. They definitely could have. The game dynamic didn't really set up for it. But they won this game. I don't want to say handedly, but it wasn't too much of a sweat. But I still have the opinion that is Mizzou this really good team, and how big of a win is it for Georgia? I'm really curious to see this Tennessee-Mizzou game this week, because I think that Tennessee-Georgia matchup could show us a lot. And then to your point, it looks like we're headed towards a Georgia-Alabama SEC championship. Alabama's kind of done its thing in that game specifically, right? Georgia's kind of got payback in the national championship game. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think Georgia by any means is like out of the SEC or can't win the SEC. But it just feels like Bama's getting right and hot and aligned at the perfect timing for them and the worst time for everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah.
And to your point, I say one quick thing. Everyone gives shit to Michigan about Michigan's not playing anybody. Michigan doesn't play anybody. Who has Georgia played really besides last week, right? Mizzou is definitely their best win of the year, but Alabama has been way more battle tested. So, yeah, you put these two teams at the end of the year. I gotta side with the more battle-tested team that's getting better against stronger competition. And for me, that's Alabama.
Right.
If
Yeah.
Mizzou handedly wins, and by handedly, I'll say a touchdown or more, so I don't want no fluke win, and Mizzou can beat Tennessee, I will start to believe Mizzou is a real deal team and maybe elevate my understanding of the Georgia win. But we went through their schedule last week. This team has played nobody. The only team that they've dominated was Kentucky. And if you want to call them a good SEC team, I'm not sure that you would. If we see them get dominated by Tennessee, I think this is not a very good Mizzou team. And Michigan's win, or I'm sorry, Georgia's win isn't all that impressive. So I'm really excited to get a little bit more clarity here on Saturday with Tennessee. Now, Tennessee is definitely, in my opinion, not on the same tier of Bama and Georgia, but they are in that next tier of SEC teams, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll break that matchup down a little bit later here, but also in the Big Ten, kind of a similar deal, right? You have a marquee matchup again, Penn State going against Michigan, which we'll also talk about that. But I got this question a couple times on live, and maybe you did too, Seth. But I want to get your guys' opinion on it. I forget if we talked about it last week or not, but a lot of things have to happen for even some of this stuff to come into play. But let's assume a couple things. Number one, let's assume Bama wins, goes undefeated the rest of the way, beats Georgia in the SEC championship, and then you also end up with a one-loss Michigan team because Ohio State presumably beats them in the Big Ten championship or the last game of the season, whatever it is, right? So you have a couple of one-loss teams in the Big Ten and a couple of one-loss teams in the SEC. Who gets through? Who comes through for the Final Four in that situation? You got to think Michigan, right? And we can segue this into maybe our CFP rankings here in a minute. But you got to think Michigan. Presumably FSU would get there. They'll run the table, right? And then how do you split the remaining two between? So
you're saying in this scenario, Michigan has lost to Ohio State, and so Michigan doesn't go to the Big Ten championship. Ohio State does. And they win out and they're undefeated?
Maybe I said that backwards, but if you chose
this Mad Libs.
Yeah, fine. I did. But Ohio State with one loss. So they're going to lose to Michigan.
So they lose to Michigan, and Michigan goes on and wins the Big Ten championship. So it sounds like the question to me is a one-loss Ohio State team get in, or does a one-loss Alabama team wins the SEC team? Slam dunk Alabama wins the SEC. That means they beat Georgia. That they already beat LSU. They would have only lost.
They also beat Texas. Yeah, they got to go. Right.
They would have lost to Texas. That's their only loss.
Right.
Where we sit right now, that looks like a pretty good loss.
Right.
Now, you could say the same against Ohio State. Like a pretty good loss against Michigan, but if you have to pin them together, I think a win over Georgia, a win over LSU, a win over Tennessee, those seem to be more important. And I think we're going to talk about it. This Michigan-Penn State game is also another really important game because if Michigan wins by 14, all of a sudden, how do you make this argument that Ohio State's win over Penn State's that interesting?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that 100%. There's, like it or not, SEC is the king of football. SEC wins carries weight, and Bama just has a ton of ranked opponent wins, right? Ohio State has a good win over Penn State. They have a win over Notre Dame, call it a good win, but that's the end of their resume, assuming in your scenario, Kev, they lose to Michigan, right? And so at that point out, Bama just has the better resume. They looked way shaky. If you would have asked me 4 weeks ago, I would have said, no, Ohio State without a doubt. But you asked me today, I don't see how you don't have Bama in there. And really, I think the better question would be assuming what Oregon wins out, right? You have a one-loss Oregon team versus a one-loss Bama team, given how stacked the Pac-12 has been this year and all the teams they faced. I think that's probably a more even question. But if Ohio State loses, I think unfortunately, and Bama wins out, I think the Big Ten gets the short end of the stick here.
The other thing too is Ohio State has it's unfortunate, or maybe it's fortunate and it's real. like every week we go on, we get to contextualize their wins a little bit more. Is beating Notre Dame that big of a deal? Like,
Right.
they keep losing. We know,
Right.
and we can show, like, they're a talented team on paper. This team is a really good team. Their record is not reflecting that. They go and they lose to Clemson. This becomes less and less impressive if everyone beats them.
Yeah.
And then, again, the Penn State angle here with Michigan this week, like, so in a way, in a world, now I don't know if this is the world we'll end up living in, but their losses keep getting, their good resume ends up getting worse and worse and worse as we go on. And I think the problem may solve itself, quite frankly.
Right. Yeah. I don't, I don't envy the college football playoff committee, having to probably decide some of this kerfuffle at the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, we're 2 weeks in to the rankings here. So this is updated as of today, November 8th. So no changes amongst the top 8 as far as the national rankings go, right? Some changes though, based on for our rankings as well as the Massey Peabody rankings, who does a similar exercise. So yeah, again, I think the big fallout was Notre Dame in terms of from the top 15, right? Because they didn't do so hot.
But let's talk about the ACC. Can we go back to the ACC really quick? Because something really important happened in the ACC. Florida State has now clinched a berth in the playoff because they're doing the win rate. So no matter what, if I don't know if it's at Michigan Day, Florida State. If Florida State wins out, regardless if they win out, they're going to the championship. They can lose all the rest of their games; they're still going. And Louisville only has to win one of their 2 games, which they're I think a 20-point favorite this week. So it's pretty probable that that's probably going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like all systems go here. We're going to see Louisville, Florida State, ACC championship. Can Louisville get into the playoff?
Wow.
I kind of want to see more. I want to see more chaos, but I also kind of want to see Florida State in. So I don't know. But we're cooking out here. Like, we got some pretty cool scenarios that are more than probable. And the ACC pulled the Pac-12 this year, and it just killed itself. It just cannibalized itself. I don't know how Louisville made it out alive and Florida State made it out alive, but Clemson obviously did a bunch of losing. Miami did a bunch of losing for no reason. Duke,
North Carolina,
UNC, yeah. I mean, Duke had some injuries, so I think you can maybe chalk it up to that, because that obviously plays a pretty big role in losing your quarterback. But the ACC has been really interesting this season, and I think UNC really they stand out to me as one of the most disappointing teams. Like, from what this team could have done.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So ACC, Louisville, and then Big 12, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, themselves. Yeah. So who? Nobody. Nobody in that conference has a shot, right?
Texas.
What am I missing?
Texas has a shot.
Yeah.
What's got to happen though? You got to have
they're forcing these Oklahoma State's hands being forced in being into the top 15 because right now, because of not the actual record, but the in-conference record, we're looking at a Big 12 championship of Oklahoma State versus Texas. And so I think they're being forced to put them in the top 15 because if that ends up happening and all of a sudden they beat Texas, and you can't leave them out and then all of a sudden put them in the top 10. So they're having to put them in there now. But Oklahoma literally just pissed their chances away. Like, they look. Yeah. Remember when they beat Texas? Like, they look so good. And RIP. I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
They've lost every game since then. Haven't they?
Another layer to this for sure. Yeah, I didn't even think about Texas, but yeah, I mean, what do you do with a one-loss Texas team? If presumably that's what happens. Like, geez, man. Wow.
Yeah, and Oklahoma barely lost won against UCF, and that was the beginning of the end, though, because we all saw, whoa, something's wrong here. Count as a fluke game, and then back to back with Kansas
and then Oklahoma State. Wow, I don't know. I mean, that is so interesting. We are plus 5,000 tickets still live for Kansas.
Yeah.
We need Oklahoma State to lose. How probable that is? I don't know. I was trying to pull up their schedule here. I was taking a look at it. It's not the most treacherous. I don't know if one of you guys can pull it up.
You're talking about Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they play UCF, Houston, and BYU the rest of the way.
So let's just hope UCF can take them down.
Yeah,
but the schedule is kind of like leaning in their direction here. They very well could win out. If they win out, it's Texas, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State. I mean, they wouldn't make it in the playoff if they won, if they beat Texas. But
that UCF game, that's a field goal game right now as far as the market's concerned. The Oklahoma State's only favored by 2.5.
Oh, do they play UCF this week?
Right,
and on the road. So
yeah,
chaos is going to happen.
What's the model?
It could. It could. I don't know. I don't have. Right now. Yeah, I don't have them in front of me, but yeah, you can see here too on the committee rankings, on the playoff rankings, Oklahoma State is at 15. That's where that's where the AP ranking is at as well. But then our ranking as well as the Master Peabody rankings are quite similar and have them far further down the list at 28th and 30th.
Oh yeah, respectively. This team is only in the top 15 because of this scenario. We make the game 1, so it's literally a basically pick 'em. So let's hope UCF can pull this out because that would be really, really dope for our ticket. Yeah, I'm not a believer in Mizzou. I think that is, I don't know what that is. That's ball washing, in my opinion. I'm really high on Oregon. I think Oregon doesn't. Yeah. And we look back, all they needed to do was just punt it on 4th down, and we're talking about an undefeated Oregon team. They got too cute, and I think they're going to beat Washington. I think they're going to win out. And I hope they get in because this team looks damn good. I would love to see an Oregon-Michigan final. I think that's, to me, those are the 2 best teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, both of them handled business this past weekend. Oregon and Washington did, right? And Washington has a pretty formidable test against Utah coming up.
They didn't both.
Well, they didn't cover. Okay, Oregon.
No, one did. One covered by 20 points. The other one got backdoor. So I'm just saying, good teams win, great teams cover. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Part of the business we're in here is covering.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah, but they're
telling me these voters, they ain't getting any action down. It's legal now, baby.
Depends, yeah. Maybe on Bovada or something. Yeah, I got to keep it on the wraps. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, this weekend is setting up for a lot of potential chaos for sure in terms of the implications for the college football rankings. 3 official weeks left, or 3 or 4 weeks left in the season, right? 3 or 4.
Week 15 is the championship games. So you have 12, 13, 14, and then championship. I believe game, 15 is 15. I could be mistaken, but
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So lots. We'll talk about some matchups here. So let's get to that here shortly. But let's recap real quick how the model performance went this past weekend. So a 500 weekend, we went 6-6. That takes the year-to-date record to 55 and 52. But Seth mentioned at the beginning too, that's not inclusive of our futures model record, which 3-1. So yeah, for what I mean, we had a couple of unfortunate backdoors against us, right? Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan, but we can't be too greedy. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch the Ohio State game. Did you see that one? We covered for no reason.
Exactly right. Yeah, this goes both ways. Yeah,
hooked it up, baby. He was like, "What's that spread?" All right. I mean, who they play? They played Rutgers. Rutgers, they were losing by 2 possessions, and they had to go for it at like their 20-yard line. They turned it over on downs in the red zone. They get a first down. It's 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal. They have like they should be running out the clock. No, deep corner fade to one of the wide receivers, score touchdown, no reason, but we cover, baby.
Yeah. 100%.
But I'm here for it, man. These coaches need to pay attention to this stuff because remember what makes college a little bit more unique than NFL is you have alumni, right? You have alumni. You have all these lineages of people that are, in this case, Ohio State fans that probably got action on Ohio State because they're alumni. And when you're in the situation to make a cover happen or not, happen, you can literally make your fan base happy, right? The NFL, you can't really do that in the same way. We've seen it. We've seen it. Penn State do it. Like, when you can, I think you should. Like, I don't see any reason for it. I guess Miami fans are saying, yeah, that's nice until it doesn't work for you. But so Michigan sold us basically because they. Oh man, that was so unfortunate. Last play of the game.
Last play of the game. Oh
yeah, literally.
Fourth down. It was fourth down. Just breadbasket hits. Like, dude, give me a pass.
Impressive. It was impressive. Yeah. To that, so real quick, like on the alumni point, like that really does make college football such a unique sport, because I don't know if you guys saw this circulating too. There was an ad that got put out there from the Ohio State. I forget the technical like advocacy group or whatever, but they made an ad for the legalization of marijuana in Ohio, and they basically said, "Huh."
It passed.
It passed, or yeah, I think so. But one of the ads it had the Michigan logo on it. Basically, it was like, that team from the north stealing your signs. Now they're stealing your tax dollars, and it just like says this little blurb about, they steal our football signs. Don't let them steal our tax dollars. People go to that state in the north to buy their weed and then come back across state lines. Let's just legalize it here so they can't steal our tax dollars and use it to improve our schools, etc. Like, so you have these blood-born rivalries that like really transcend more than just sports. So it's really incredible in that respect. So I thought that was.
Oh yeah, like have you ever been to a U of A ASU game?
I have, yeah. It's been a while. I have, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
5-6 years ago, maybe.
Like it's like there's nothing like true college rivalry, true like fandom alumni, in my opinion, especially at these big schools. Like, I mean, we went to the University of Arizona. Obviously, I guess we get a little bit of it in basketball, but I mean, I can only imagine what it's like to be a Bama fan or a Georgia fan or Ohio State fan, where your team is like in the mix every game, and like you expect to cover. As an Arizona fan, I don't necessarily this year. I guess you expect to cover, but that's a new phenomenon.
Yeah. It'll be fascinating to see how new rivalries form or not, with the realignments and the conference changes and all that type of stuff. Curious to see how that plays out. That's going to be just anecdotally something to. I don't know if college football will quote unquote ever be the same.
Yeah. So to address the win rate, we're technically less than profitable right now. We're 2 games away, 2 to 3 games, depending on how you want to do the math, of being profitable. So that's how close we are. So we have plenty of weeks left. Now, it doesn't have to go that way. We can definitely continue to slide. But remember, I mean, we've seen 9-0 weeks. Like, these things can happen in chunks. So you got to trust the process. We're continuing to see CLV for the vast majority of our picks.
Right.
We've seen very few games where the market has moved against us. It either doesn't move or it moves in our favor. We have seen a handful of games, but if we're talking 107 games, I would say probably 10 of those we've seen negative CLV. So we're really seeing all the signals we would like to see for us getting our money down correctly. And I think trusting the process is important, and we'll continue to do it going into week 11. Yeah,
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, though. Week 11, a couple of marquee matchups that we should break down, get into a little bit here. First one, mentioned it a little bit earlier, a big Pac-12 matchup, UW versus the Utes here. So our number puts it at 8, -8 for Washington. Spread opened at 9, so we are on Utah. We got this at +10, I believe.
Yeah.
So you can no longer 10s unfortunately at this point are not available. So hopefully you are a board member, or if you're not, consider subscribing. We were able to get this at +10 at open, and now it's at I checked this morning. I haven't checked since, but you can get 9s.
When I took these, 9.5 I think is what's available. So I mean, that 10 is a really huge bump in EV, such a key number in college. This one scares the living shit out of me. I think the model is wronger than wrong here.
Okay. Well, which part scares you though?
So I think we're getting an inflated signal. Remember, we got small sample size with college, so we're using play-by-play data. But the problem is they beat ASU by like 40 or something
52.
like this, and they beat it by 52. Oh my god! And ASU's quarterback got knocked out of that game. So we're seeing a little bit of signal versus noise, or in my opinion. Now, if there's a team that could potentially show up, it's Utah. They've had a weird schedule. They've showed up in some big games. They haven't showed up, but this just feels like a little bit of noise to me, that the model's being like, hey, well, this just happened, and that makes them look very good or better than they maybe should be. That being said, it is drowned out. I mean, there is, we're using a 12-game rolling average, things like this, but I don't know. It just, that analytically and then just gut-wise, like how we saw what Washington did last week. They got in a shootout and they just murdered USC. How can Utah even come close to playing that type of game? You're on mute, Kevin.
Yeah.
My bad. Yeah, I guess I kind of share that sentiment a little bit. I'm not like shaking in my boots about it per se. I mean, you do have a couple of other elements here, like Michael Penix, like Heisman, one of the front runners, right? He leads the nation in total EPA. Like he is on top of the world, right? He's number 3 in sack rate allowed. Like he only gets sacked on like 1.5% of his dropbacks. Like leads the nation there as well, right? So Utah, again, for what it's worth, like their calling card, if you will, their defense is relatively stout. Number 2 in the country in EPA per pass allowed. So that's not for nothing, right? But yeah, I don't know if this is similar to the Alabama LSU situation last week, where if this at any point resembles a shootout, you got to give the nod to Washington. So if Utah wants to stay in it, they have to somehow limit that offense. There's just no other way they're going to be able to keep up.
I mean, what this is to me is, they played Oregon, they lost 35-6. Like, I don't think Washington is nearly as good defensively as Oregon is. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I can see, Utah maybe scoring 14. But the problem is, I think Washington's offense is just as potent. So, I don't know. I always say you build a model, you use the model. I bet it. The 10's good. The market's agreeing. We're not seeing too much movement off that 9 because 10's a key number, but I won't be surprised here if this thing gets slam dunk, like just murdered.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think here, if I'm being honest. My initial thought when I saw this was, fuck, but at the same time, to this point, the Utah that we think we know, I completely agree with what you just said, Seth, is not equipped to get into the shootout. But on the other hand, yes, the 55 points against ASU, that's abnormal. That's not normal. That's not reproducible for Utah. It's just simply not, right? But, 34-32 against USC, again, another poor defense, but Utah did something. And like you said, Washington's defense is definitely not as bad as SC's, but it's not top tier either. It can be exploited a little bit, right? And so I just don't know what this Utah team is. Are we seeing the backup quarterback play from Barnes? Like, are we seeing them actually just mature and now they have a hold of the offense? Or it's just going to be an absolute 21-point beatdown by the Huskies? So I'm torn here, man. I think if you left me to my own devices, I'm with you. I would have to side with the Washington. But I can legitimately see a way that Utah can cover the 10. The 10 is, like you said, the key number there.
Yeah. I mean, again, you want to trust in the process. I definitely, my dumb mental model thinks, no way. That being said, I mean, you make a lot of great points, and I think this is another great data point we're going to, like, week 11 is like a treasure trove. Week 11 is going to show us about Washington. Even if this team, scores 35, this is a good defense. That's an important data point, that Washington can score on really good defenses. Sure, it's impressive to get in a shootout with USC, but if you go play Alabama, you go play Oregon again, quite frankly, I don't think that game is a shootout. I think it looks pretty different than that game where you're just trading huge explosive plays. So I think it's a good data point whether Utah covers or not. What can Washington do against a good defense? Because they are one of the best offenses.
Man. All right. Yeah. The more we talk about this, the worse I feel about it. But like I said, Been wrong plenty of times before, where you try to mental model it out, and then you're just like, why the fuck did I think that?
I
This is
mean,
why you
to
build up.
Steve's point, we said the same thing about USC. I mean, we didn't have a plan that game,
Yeah,
but we're like,
fair.
how does Utah, how do they do it? And I mean, the question becomes, how did they score 55 against ASU? ASU's handled their business a lot against a lot of teams. So what did they do against that? Maybe this team is getting right at the right time or getting hot at the right time. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
They play the
but
game for a
like we
reason.
said, yeah, 100. Hello, yeah, exactly. So that's a big one in the Pac-12. Let's move on to one of the two big ones in the SEC here. So Tennessee and Missouri. Again, question is, who is Missouri? That's what we need to know. Our number puts it at 3. Tennessee -3. Spread opened at 1. We got this at, Seth, do you remember?
We got this at -1. Yeah,
We got this
we're
at
at
-1.
-1. Model puts us at -3, right? And that's where really the value is.
Yeah.
We're at 1. Market is sitting at 1. Look, again, I'm biased here. I just don't believe the Mizzou hype. I don't think this team is all that good. They actually haven't. When they played the big guys in the SEC, what happens? They lose. I mean, we've seen that. It's the same narrative we hear over and over. This team's good. All week, I was getting chirped. Mizzou wins. Mizzou money line. Mizzou's going to cover. They end up covering, yes. I think that, I don't want to say it was a fluke. They covered. It wasn't, but they definitely weren't going to win that game. And I don't think it's going to be, or I don't think Tennessee is the same team as Georgia, but I think that they are that next tier in the SEC play. It's similar to an LSU. So I think there are also question marks at who's going to be starting a quarterback for Mizzou this week as well. So, that's important.
So Mizzou, you say, talk about great teams win, or good teams win, great teams cover. They are they're 6-3. For what that's worth. I know that's largely Fugaze. Yeah, no, that's largely Fugaze type of metric, but yeah, they're covering, baby. Shout out. Yeah, I don't know. This one is really, like, especially mental modeling now, just like thinking about this kind of analytics aside. This one is, I don't know what to think. Like, close my eyes, throw a dart at the wall. Like, this is a toss-up one, and the market agrees, right? This is effectively a toss-up game here. Nothing pops on paper for either of these two teams in terms of, like, what can you point to analytically that says either of these two teams should run away with this? Nothing in my opinion.
And the market agrees. I mean, they're putting this at a
exactly. Yeah, this hasn't been bought one way or the other. This hasn't really moved much since open, if at all, actually. So yeah, market doesn't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with this. This is a weird game to me.
It's just slightly, and if you look at pretty much all the statistics other than EPA per play on offense, they're just all slight leans for Tennessee. And then the blue chip rating, these are a little bit more of a talented team. Now, that being said, this is a team that lost a lot last year. I mean, from last year to this year, this is a very different Tennessee team. They did their thing against Tennessee. I think there are questions around Tennessee's tackle. They didn't start last week. Still questions if he's going to start this week. Obviously, you'd like to have that because Mizzou does have a really good defensive line. So, look, I don't think this is a slam dunk. You see the value there, 2.5%. It'd be really interesting to see where this thing closes. I think it just leans a little bit in Tennessee. Now, this game is at Mizzou, so
right.
We'll see if any more miracle kicks happen.
Yeah, the one thing that concerns me about the Tennessee element of it is, how are they going to convert on offense once they get into the red zone, because they have they're middle of the pack in terms of echo rate, but 117th in the country in points per echo rate. So they're not even generating 3 points, getting at least to the opponent's 40-yard line. So they're not even, they're not sustaining drives, they're not scoring once they're getting on the other side of the field at a high clip. So if
that's
Mizzou,
really good. That's a really good stat. We need to get that in the model. Yeah, I think points per echo. I mean, once you, like you're saying, if you get in the red zone, you're not scoring, and that's what cost us the Alabama ticket. They got there even in the last drive. They got there. They just couldn't convert. I don't know. I'm not a Mizzou believer.
Yeah,
I can rationalize what the model's saying, but like, I would tend to agree with it here. It makes sense to me. I just want to believe that Tennessee's a little bit better of a team. But again, maybe this is Mizzou's chance to just keep kind of proving that they are taking a huge step forward. I mean, the trajectory Mizzou is on right now is that they're trying to be this second tier SEC team. Like they're done being in the Vandies. They want to be in the LSU. They want to be in the Tennessee, cohort.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. I think there's tiers. There's levels to this shit. There's tiers to this shit. I think you said it perfectly. I think Mizzou is going to be in the same tier as Tennessee. This should be a more competitive game than what we saw against Georgia. Yes, they didn't get blown out against Georgia. Good for them. But this is a team they realistically can beat where they really didn't have a shot at beating Georgia last week.
Yeah, 100%. And that is reflected in the spread. I'm really curious to see how this goes. And, more things that make the Tennessee spot less attractive. They beat the shit out of UConn, and then they play Georgia next week, I'm pretty sure. So they're coming off a huge win, and then they have a look-ahead spot. I mean, it's the classic, college just shit the bed. That being said, Mizzou just getting the shit kicked out of them by Georgia. How healthy are they? I mean, a game like that's got to be an emotional kind of letdown. You've been gaining steam all season, and then you finally you play Georgia, and they kind of just take the wind out of your sails.
Right. All right. That's SEC matchup number 1. How about SEC matchup number 2? Georgia and Ole Miss. No value on this one from a modeling perspective. Our number puts it at -13. Opening was at 12, so no value on either side of this for us. This one to me, guys, I want to get your takes on this. And shout out to Parker Fleming of Sumer Sports, aka Stats of War on Twitter. Great follow. If you're not following him, check him out. Great personality. But I pulled some of these stats, and I kind of derived a couple of things from his take. So this game, in my opinion, is going to come down to, and this sounds relatively rudimentary, but it's going to come down to 3rd and 4th down. Okay, so real quick. Ole Miss, number 92 in the country overall in success rate on 3rd and 4th down. Okay, Georgia, number 10 in 3rd and 4th rate success. 3rd and 4th down success rate allowed. Okay, one more for you. Ole Miss, 91 in 3rd and 4th down success rate allowed on defense, and Georgia, number 10 again in success rate on offense. So very stark, strength versus weakness. Right here with these two teams. Again, sounds rudimentary, but if Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin cannot have good success rates and generate positive EPAs on the early downs, 1st and 2nd downs, I don't think they're sustaining drives. I don't think they're going to stand a chance.
And I believe Georgia is getting one of their tackles back as well on the defensive line that's been out due to surgery. So the synergies here, could be jumping off the page. Look, no value here from the model. I think Ole Miss are frauds. What have they done? They had their shot to take down Alabama. They were right there. They were winning that game. And they just, this team, what have they done? They beat a bad LSU team defensively on the last play of the game. They didn't beat Alabama when they could have. What else have they actually done? I think they get embarrassed here. I think, assuming Georgia is healthy after last week, I know there's potential getting that defensive lineman back. I just don't see how Ole Miss keeps up here. I like what you're saying about 3rd, 4th down. That's assuming Georgia even gets to 3rd and 4th down. Is the defense even good enough to hold Georgia to that? Right? That's the question I have. I don't see how who's Alabama play that's on this tier, or sorry, who is Ole Miss play that's on this tier? To me, it's nobody, and the only team is Alabama, and that was an Alabama team. Remind you, that was not the Alabama team we're seeing now. This was the Alabama team that was struggling.
Yeah, listen, I think everything you just said is completely logical and makes sense statistically and logically, 100%. And Ole Miss probably gets destroyed this game. But let me tell you why Ole Miss is going to cover.
Okay.
For everything you just said,
hotty-totty.
right? Because I was one of the most disappointed people in Ole Miss when they had the shot against Alabama, right? As you know, we talk about if you're a Wire fan, the big thing is you go for the king. If you come for the king, you best not miss, right? And that's what they did. They went for the king and they missed, and they had every chance to win this game. Ole Miss is sitting at number 11 in the CFP rankings. Behind who? Alabama, right? If Ole Miss does not win this game, there is no shot in hell that they have any chance of making the playoffs. Even if they did win this game, it's still a long shot, but their season's technically alive. Ole Miss has, I don't say more to play for, but they should be the hungrier team, knowing that they should have been in the driver's seat, flip-flop with Alabama. Now, will that be enough to overcome? No, this is all the motion. I don't know. That's why we play the game. But I think this is a more dangerous game than people give credit for Ole Miss if they show up, if they can do what they're supposed to do on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I'm not saying it's enough for them to win the game. I'm not saying that's enough for them to make this a slam dunk bet. I completely agree. There is no value here, obviously, from a model standpoint, but from my standpoint too. But if I had to put a nickel on this game, I'm taking the points.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and the market's agreeing with you. I didn't even realize that when I made this. The market has bought this down from 12 to 10.5. Look, this goes to 9.5. Nuclear blast whale goat walk of the century, of the decade, of YCK Georgia. Like, I just think after what we saw last week, we saw what Georgia can do. I think Ole Miss are frauds. Them losing to a bad Alabama team tells me everything I need to know. This was the time to do it.
Agreed.
They couldn't. How are they going to stop a legitimate offense? They couldn't stop one that was made up, basically. And that's how bad their defense is. So, I mean, at that point in time, man, Milrose is taking a step forward. But at that point in time, it was Milrose running.
Right.
I mean, still he's doing that. But it's at least a game plan around that. Then it was just him, like, figuring it out. And he was able to. So, if this goes, 9.5 is a nuclear whale lock, goat lock. I don't even know. I need to find new words for this.
Well, I will be keeping my eyes to the unabated live odds screen as much as I possibly can, and I will text you the second I see it if you don't get it to it first.
I mean, look, I'll hold myself accountable. I'll make a video. I'll let you guys all know that, hey, this is happening. Bet of the century type of thing.
Let's go.
So what number do you stop buying, Steve? Is 10.5 number really important for you?
Oh, yeah. No, I need a little bit of a cushion. I think 10 is the absolute limit for sure. Now, with that being said, you know me, we talk about so behind the scenes for you guys, we always talk about, I have this dirty little vice of taking underdogs, not just spread from the model pick, but taking them outright money line. And so this would be absolutely a game. If this is in the deep second, early third quarter, and Ole Miss is hanging around within 7 points, I am for sure firing Ole Miss money line, 100%. But no, seriously, as like a responsible bettor, 10 for me is the number. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like 10.5 across the board. You can get an 11. 11.5 at Rivers. I'm looking right now. So there you go. If you want it, they got it.
Yeah.
This hasn't moved. No, it's still 10.5 everywhere. That is wild. What am I missing? I think you're high as this guy. I'll eat pro pie next week.
We'll see. Like you said earlier, that's why they play the game, baby. That's why they play the game. 100%. All right. I don't know. For my money, this is probably the most anticipated matchup of the week. I don't know why. Because I kind of want to give all of the Michigan haters a little bit of humble pie, perhaps. And we've been hearing it all year. Oh, they haven't played anybody. Blah blah blah. Okay, well, finally that week is here. They're gonna play somebody. Michigan, Penn State. Our number says it's 5. Opener was at 5, so no value on it from a modeling perspective for us. But that said, I mean, I am a little surprised the market is still pricing this as a one score game. One thing that concerns me, like Penn State, they have a really good borderline dominant defense. That's kind of not really much in question. But how many points can this team put up against a very, very good, also dominant defense in Michigan? that part I'm very concerned about for them. I don't like. I could see this being a very low scoring game. I'm gonna research a little more. I probably will take a play to the under total for this game for a couple different reasons. But I mean, you name it. Michigan, number one in defensive echo rate, number one in points per echo, number three in EPA per pass. Like you name it, they're super dominant. What say you guys? How does Penn State keep this a one score game?
They don't. They don't. It's very simple. They don't. This is going to be a lesson in humility for all the folks who said Michigan can't be good, Michigan can't be ranked number 3 or whatever it may be because they haven't played anybody. You got to look past the superficial stuff. You got to look at what they're actually doing on the field. The schedule's a schedule. What they have done, though, against these quote unquote nobodies, which still we talk about every week, we don't agree with that because they've played all their in-conference games and they have still dominated. Look at that negative defensive EPA per play. That is extremely hard to do no matter who you're playing in football. And Michigan has done it week in and week out. And it's going to continue. We saw Penn State really struggle against a really good Ohio State defense. Guess who's the only defense better than Ohio State? Michigan. Right. And so, like, you're looking at this right now, and I do expect Penn State to struggle. It's going to be a home game. They're going to get up, or, they're going to get up. I get all that. But Michigan is just too good of a team. And I know this is not an EV play for the model. This is one I've already put money down. I feel comfortable with. Within 6, I would say I feel pretty damn comfortable taking Michigan for the easy cover.
Go blue. 5 ways, 10 ways, 10 units, 100 units. This is ridiculous. I mean, I am so shocked analytically as somebody that models how this is only 5. I believe the model. What I don't believe the model can quantify is that when we look at common opponents, when we look at some kind of A equals B, B equals C logic, and look, this falls short in the long term versus a model. In a one game or a very specific matchup, I think there can be an edge to be found. I think we don't have to look that far. Who did Penn State struggle with? Indiana. Who did Ohio State struggle with? Indiana. Who did Michigan not struggle with? Indiana. They struggled for like literally 2 series, and then they won by like 40-something points. I think it's going to be a very similar game that we've seen from Michigan here. We saw Ohio State. They were winning by 14, and they gave up a meaningless touchdown in garbage time. We saw Penn State lose 2 possessions. Like, I know that the box score doesn't reflect that, but I am looking for the same thing here. Michigan is just as good offensively, but better defensively. Now, I understand. Penn State, you're talking about negative EPA. Penn State has a negative EPA, Steve, but I don't think it matters here because I don't think they're nearly offensively potent enough. I do think that they can give Michigan a little bit of trouble. I do not think Michigan wins by 21. I'm not delusional here. But when you're giving me less than a possession, a foot of touchdown, really specifically, I don't see how Michigan doesn't run away with this. That being said, sharp money has now come into the market. These are all now sitting 4.5 across the board. I know that Capwise gave this out at -5 and said to play it down to 4.5. Perfect. Love it. I think they're wrong. I think they're using some incorrect thing. And I don't know what that thing is, to be honest, because there's no statistic, in my opinion, you can find that's going to point in the direction of Penn State other than it's at home, it's Penn State.
Right.
I'm willing to die on this hill. I'm willing to die on this hill.
This is obviously only one variable, but I was surprised to see the difference in blue chip ratio between these two teams. Michigan State really only has basically a 36% blue chip ratio. I find that hard to believe.
I find it hard to believe, yes, but we talked about this before. I think what you're seeing is the transfer portal play a role here. If you look at their overall talent, this is one of the most talented teams. Like if you convert blue chip ratio and their transfer portal to like a talent score, they're one of the top 5 teams. But if you're getting a lot of talent through your transfer portal, and these guys aren't technically 4- and 5-star recruits, but they're juniors that are playing at the top of the league, well, your blue chip ratio may look artificially low. But
Yeah,
we know Michigan's cheating in any way they can. So maybe they're just not reporting, recruiting in the same way. So whatever. I don't care. I'm trying to book it right now. I'm traveling, so I'm trying to find what book will take my action here. But I am going to nuclear whale lock this. Like this doesn't make sense. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Yep.
And I'm looking at it, but you're right, Kevin. If we bump this true number up, if say for instance Michigan is really an 80% blue chip ratio, this number is not 5. This number is definitely 7 at least. And we're now able to get a 4.5. So I'm going to bet it. I'm going to bet it. I'm going to take it. I'm going to bet irresponsibly. And the minute I get 9.5 for Georgia, I'm parlaying both of them.
All right, week 11 is shaping up to be one for the books. Let me tell you, not the sports books, just metaphorically speaking.
Well, maybe I'll be donating because you use them, you build a model, you use it. We're saying these are negative EV bets. I do believe that. Well, the Georgia one's a little bit. I can be a bit more rational there. If the market buys that down to 9.5, that's a really strong signal. It'd be really dumb. I would not be irresponsible. This to me is, I think, a really time. I mean, look, we're not unique. We're not unique. People are using the exact same models and the exact same statistics we're using. We're not cute. We use the same predictive statistics. There's 20 of them. It's not, there's innovation, yes, but things that are predictive are predictive. You want to use them, right? So we're not out here doing anything too crazy. What if everybody else is struggling or doing maybe a better job at quantifying blue chip ratio? I guess the market's moving against us, so that wouldn't be a good argument for that. But we'll see where this thing closes. That's all I got to say. We'll see where this thing closes. We're only sitting at Wednesday, right? So we have a lot of time to go. This hasn't really moved through a significant number. 5.5 to 5 to 4.5 is not any key number here. I'm going irresponsible.
Yeah.
You can't walk.
You said Boston has legal sports betting there. Yes?
Yeah, they're legal. I'm in. I'm in it. Some of them want my ID. Some of them are letting me bet. So I'll figure this out.
All right. Well, we got a couple of potentially irresponsible bets on the docket this weekend, which is a-okay, right? But let's focus on the fiscally and otherwise responsibly betting portion of the programming here. So again, looking at week 11 model predictions, we hit these at openers like we do every week this past Sunday. So we locked down, I forget the count. I think it's 12 or 13 in total.
It's even more because we found some ones throughout a little bit later in the week. So I think we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep, 14.
14. Okay. So a lot of good volume again this week. And again, despite where the overall model record is at, when you are quantifying your edge like this, you want volume. Volume is our friend, effectively, in the long run. So 14 plays again this week. Interesting. I mean, there's a bunch of interesting names on here for a couple different reasons. Number one, we don't necessarily believe in banned lists for fugazi reasons or whatever. You hear about banned lists on Twitter and things like that. But if JMU, James Madison, does not cover against Connecticut, banned list, baby.
Count your fucking days.
Second, third, fourth, never again. I don't care. They don't cover. I'm writing a letter to the NCAA. They're trying to appeal for the third or fourth time to get bowl eligible. I'm going to write some made-up story about how JMU denied me, and now I have this successful career, and it propelled me, and it's the only reason that I am where I am. And please do not let them do this because they're going to hurt more people. This is it. You got one more chance. And guess what? The market is selling this. And I'm not surprised. They're frauds. And NCAA knows it. That's why they won't let them into the bowl season. They're trying to get a New Year's 6. Are you kidding me? You couldn't cover against Old Dominion.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen if you play Ohio State?
I know. Yeah. So yeah, to your point, the market buying this, yeah, there's 24 and a halves now, and on some retail books. So yeah, circa's hanging at 25 at the moment. But yeah, I know they let us down once. We heard too much shit talking from JMU fans throughout the season.
Yeah, I haven't heard a peep since.
Yeah.
Okay, let me run through these bets because there is a lot of them. Okay, we have
there are.
UNLV -3, UNLV -3, Oregon State -20, Sam Houston State 8.5. Shout out Steve. Memphis -11, JMU -26.5, Louisville -18.5, Air Force -17.5, Utah +10, Kansas State -18.5, Clemson -14.5, Tennessee -1. Wisconsin -11.5, Oklahoma -12.5, and South Alabama -10.
Yep. All right.
Woo.
That is the full list, baby. Whew. You say that in one breath, one take. Look at that. Good for you.
I don't think I can. That's a lot of volume. I love the volume. I love it. I love it. Variance is much rarer when you have high volume, although it still can happen. We're seeing CLV kind of all over the place. So JMU's closing against us. Utah's closing in our direction. Tennessee hasn't moved. Where's some UNLV is like moved really far in our direction. Steve, talk to me about Sam Houston State.
Yeah, this one scares the shit out of me.
Yeah,
and it's slightly it's like right. It's open at 8. Now it's at 8.5, right? Or is it move?
We got 8.5. I think it's at.
It's 7.5 and 8 right now in the
7,
market.
8. Okay, all right. Yeah,
Half a point.
Yeah, there you go. Listen, I let the Bearcats screw me once, and I have been a non-believer ever since. As a matter of fact, I've been peeping their games and kind of live betting against them. Foolproof strategy.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is about this
shit
team.
The bet. Yeah,
they do. They really do.
No bet teams. We should probably add them to the list.
Yeah. I will say though, I do love Oregon State at -20. I love that bet. I'm really excited to watch. What was the other one? Who was the? I want to see Oklahoma bounce back here. I think this is their spot to actually bounce back for once. We'll see how that goes. And then the other one that I'm with you, Kev, JMU. They don't cover against a really shitty UConn team. They're dead to me forever. They're dead to me forever.
RIP. Ever.
Yeah. And also, I feel like no one's really talking about this. I feel pretty good about this K-State game too. I don't know if people haven't really talked about it, but Baylor's a really bad team. Bad team.
And Kansas State's really good.
Yeah.
I love that bet. I love that bet.
Yeah, that one's good. The markets agree with us now, and you can only get 20.5 now. So
yeah, that's huge.
2 full points in our favor.
Louisville's the other one. We got it 18.5. This is now at 20.5, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, that feels good. I mean, some of these big ones, the scary ones are Utah. I'll even throw Tennessee, to be honest, in there. Clemson. Although I have to be honest, this feels like a good time to buy them. But man, if they can get bad beat, or that's when you would be bad beat. If a team that could stumble again and a team to stumble too would be Georgia Tech, Clemson.
Right.
We'll see. But Dabo's got to correct the ship here. You can't just beat Notre Dame and then go and lose again or not cover again. You have to try to dominate the team, and they have the talent to do it. I think that this is really important. I don't know if I would go quite as far as to say implications for Dabo's job, but if the seat was clearly hot enough, he was fighting for 12-year-olds. He was fighting with 12-year-olds. So the seat must have been pretty hot, or it is pretty hot, right? So,
yeah.
But it is scary. And then South Alabama, this is a team that's kind of been a wild team. I don't know. We haven't bet on them at all. This is a kind of a cool one that I would never bet before that. Wisconsin is definitely sliding. We're on 11.5, and I think there's 11 and 12s in the market.
Yeah.
The market is not agreeing with us there. And then we're back on Oklahoma this week. Look, where I will respect it is the buy low spot. This is not a spot where people are going to want to buy Oklahoma. The model is seeing value at the 12.5.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know the South Alabama. Have you watched a second of their football this year? No, me
No.
neither. Me neither. So we got a couple of them. We've had a couple of them. You know, these smaller schools on the slate throughout the season, and yeah, it's been good and bad. It's been good because you get exposure. You know, you tune into the games and you get to feel it out a little bit, right? But to your point, we've talked about this a couple of times throughout the season. The nuance or maybe the delicacy of trying to model out with these smaller schools and the talent aspect and how that affects and how that affects our win rate, the model's win rate with the smaller schools, so that just kind of inherently gives me a little bit of heartburn, I guess.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, it's specific small schools, right? Like it actually has done okay. Like Ball State won last week. Like it's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, I've got a list of things. Like we're going back to the lab, like just like we did in the NFL last season. We're we're light years ahead of where we were last season with NFL, where we are with college, but we're still nowhere near where we are with NFL. Like our model and really our database needs to get better. And quite frankly, it will get better. I mean, you're already talking about like Eckel points per Eckel, and I know that I got Eckel rate from Parker, so it's funny that you shouted him out. But we will start to add these things, and we'll go in the lab. And how can we think of talent? How can we quantify that? Right now we're kind of just using on threes to derivate. Like
Yeah.
we're just kind of using what they have. What if they're wrong? Or what? How are they deriving it? Are there better sources? I know 24/7 has it. It's the question: can you get it for a large database? And so, point being, we will improve. It will be better. But I think it's still good enough right now to bet with. But next year we'll be able to really beat markets.
Yeah, yeah, feel good about where things are at for sure. So, all right, yeah, I would ask you guys if you got any other action besides what the model has. We talked about a couple of them, but also like between the volume and between your potentially irresponsible plays, I'm afraid to even ask you if you have anything else going on because I don't personally at the moment. But it's going to be a big weekend, a lot of action for sure. So I'm excited. Should be fun. But anything else for you guys?
No, that's it.
Michigan by 100. Michigan by 100. No,
All right, take
read
those alts. Take
responsibly.
those alt lines.
No alts. I like. I'm just going to take the 4.5. I think this is wrong. I think it closes at 6. I look. I will sit here next week if I'm wrong, saying, "Look, I'm wrong."
Fair enough.
I'm obviously just don't think I'm going to be.
Naturally, whoever thinks they're wrong, of course.
True, 100%. And then we'll see about Georgia. If I had to rank my confidence here, it is Michigan up here, and then the Georgia one like here. I still think it's a similar angle, but it's not even close to me. Like
I can't figure out if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I agree with you on that. We'll see. We'll see how the weekend plays out.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Shout out. It's been real.
It's
true.
Horrible. No one should ever go to Penn State. Don't ever go there.
Ringing endorsement.
Get in and get the fuck out.
Ringing endorsement. Oh my god. All right. Well, good night and good luck to everybody except Penn State, I guess. Yeah. So
we are
shout out,
going to lose.
Okay. All right. God, calling your shot. I fucking love it. All right. That is it, boys and girls, for us. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Another edition of the College Weekly Board Meeting in the books. We'll see everyone here same time next week for Week 12 look ahead. Until then, Kevin Seth to Steve, signing out. See you, boys.
See ya.